Happy to help you end your day, end your week a little bit early. Thanks to Nextspace, and thanks to all of you for having us as we're a guest, but we're sort of a host, so we're guest hosts. Thank you, and I know Maya's probably riding a tortoise right now in the Galapagos. Thanks to Maya and Tiffany for facilitating it. I basically want to tell you about the river and why we think it matters for the community, and what you can do to make it a different place. First thing I want to do is ask you to think about your earliest experience in nature. Think about the first time you connected, whether it was surfing or being camping with your family. What's the earliest thing you can remember? Is there anything earlier than that? Way back. I grew up in Iowa, and for me it was catching. I fished with my dad and my family a lot, and I loved to fish, but when I was bored with it, I would catch crawdads. And I can still see the crawdads. If I close my eyes, I can still see the grayish blue shells, sometimes a swirl of like purple or orange. I can still see those, and my brother told me they could pinch my fingers off, and it scared me, and I'm still kind of afraid of crawdads to this day. And all of you have, I hope you have some experience like that that's really early on, and it changed you. It got you to connect to nature, maybe fear it a little bit, maybe have some awe for it. And what we want to do is bring people back to that experience. We want to get that for kids more often. We want to introduce you to that as adults again. And we think you can do that through the San Lorenzo River Alliance. What we're doing right now, I want to tell you what we're doing and why we're doing it. What we're doing is we're getting people down to the river. How many people go down there, spend time? I know you've had recess down there, right? Anybody? Yeah. And now it's at Abbott Square, and I heard some people say, you may shift it back to, field the river, and have grass, and go to recess, and kick balls around and things. We're having events down there, like birding walks, and bike events, and boot camp, and exercise, and having events for families, and for seniors, and walking your dog, and anything you can imagine that's positive. Getting events down there so that we have we bring people down there, and then you realize, oh, actually this is a pretty cool space. I'm going to go back on my own. I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to hang out there. Right now, if you had a visitor coming, you probably wouldn't drag them there, but you'd take them to Westcliff, right? You'd take them to the beach. And so I want to ask you, like, what do you think it would take to get the Riverwalk to that space? It would take an investment in the physical design of it, and it would take people getting there. So that's what we're doing, is getting them there. That's the first thing. And then kids, like I talked about my experience with crawdads, from Boulder Creek down to Beach Flats, we are positively brainwashing kids. We're trying to get them connected to nature. We take them on classroom, we go in and do classroom presentations, field trips, after school programs, and summer camps. So that this guy likes summer camp.
I organize.
Everybody likes summer camp. And we're getting kids down there so that they have those early experiences, and so the next generation realizes what the river does for us. And the other thing we're doing is cleaning up the water, so it's cleaner water quality for fish and birds and for you. Yeah. Imagine if you could swim there, right?
I do, and it's kind of scary.
Right? So we're a very science-based organization, and one of the takeaways from our latest study, we studied the river intensively last summer, and we learned that there's not human bacteria in the river. There's bird feces in the river, and that's not good, but public health officials know that you've got to worry about human feces. That's what makes you and I sick, and that's not really in the river. Now, after a rain, it might be a different story, so we're continuing to study, but in the dry season, that was one of the takeaways. It's actually a pretty clean river. So that's one of the things that's changing, is we're changing the narrative about the river. We're changing the conversation. And that's what we're doing, and I want to tell you why. I mean, this town's here because the San Lorenzo River was there. In 1769, the Spanish came here and settled there and got flooded out and then stayed on the high ground, but eventually we came back down to the river. We're in a floodplain right now. And in '55, there was the Christmas flood. It came down Pacific Avenue, and it killed like a dozen people and flooded out a bunch of businesses and homes. So the levees came. And the levees are doing their job. They're keeping the water in the banks of the river. But they're also disconnecting you, so that physically you can't see the river. Visually, you can't see it. Emotionally, you probably don't have a connection to it. Psychologically, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And yet, in Providence and in Chicago and in Kansas City and in Austin and in Reno and in Sacramento and Paso Robles and even in Los Angeles. In all those places, they've got a thriving urban riverfront. And we have something that's okay. You've seen it down at Recess, but could be much better. So why we're doing it is because it's 2/3 of your drinking water, and we want people to know that. It could be an extension of downtown and drive economic vitality here, but it's not right now. It could be the next place for you to take your kids and for you to get away from the screens, right? We're all connected to these screens, and we have to do that, but we're restored by the time we spend with nature. Whether it's surfing or going to the beach or in the redwoods, you can do that right there. That riverfront could be less like an irrigation ditch and more like a great urban park. That could happen here. It could be less like a back alley and more like a great urban park. And so if you like that idea, if you've seen that elsewhere, or if the conversation about it excites you, here's what I want you to know is that you can do something about it. You're all starting businesses, or you've had businesses for a while. They're small or they're medium. And you're not done with that. It's a work in progress still, right? And Santa Cruz is that way. It's an amazing place. I'm a transplant. I'm from Iowa. That's why we have PBR here. And pickles. I just walked through Whole Foods thinking about what I would want, and I got PBR and pickles. You got to be yourself, right? So you're not done with your businesses, and as amazing as Santa Cruz is, we're not done here. It's still evolving, and we get to shape what that is. So we can forget about that, or we can make it an extension of downtown. We can make it inviting. We can make it a wonderful place. And you get to shape that. I always tell people, if you like the idea that what I'm talking about, there's 3 things you can do. The Coastal Watershed Council needs your time, your money, and your ideas. And what do I mean by time? Is take a walking meeting and walk along the Riverwalk. Spend time down there. If it's a vacuum, it'll be filled with either negative stuff or positive stuff. Right now it's a mix, and we want to tip the scale so that's more positive activity. So get down there, commute, spend time, take a lunch down there, take a picnic down there, get recess back down there. So that's your first thing is time, where you can volunteer with us and pull weeds and collect water quality samples with us. We've got plenty of things you can do. So that's time. And then money. Maybe you don't have the time. It's easier to write a check. I will help you with that. We do need your support, and you can be a part of it and feel like you're driving that change by giving your time and your money. And the last thing is your ideas. And there's time involved here. What have you seen in other